of socializing the idea. One of the things that I've seen work consistently well, though, is to bring stakeholders or anyone who you need to get on board along with in the process. So you can say something like, if you've just done some research or doing research, this is a really good example. You send an email out to all of the stakeholders at the end of your research day and say, here are a few interesting things we learned today. Mm-hmm. You set expectations and say, these are not fully formed findings, but here are some interesting stories that I heard. And that way people, you sort of take them on the journey of creating this new thing so they know why the button is where it is, for example.
If you were talking with somebody who's a more junior coming into where, these days where user experience is a bit more defined, it's a bit more understood in the corporate world, if you felt like you were going to coach somebody on where the future of where user experience design is going, obviously I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what does your gut tell you? What's the next couple of years hold for that junior UX designer now?
The next couple of years, junior or no, holds a whole lot of learning for any user experience designer. I mean, I would say that learning should be a constant mindset we have as user experience designers, because the whole premise of our position or our field is that we know that we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And so like we by our very existence we acknowledge ignorance, and so we need to apply that to our own selves and our careers as well, understanding that there are going to be new things that we are going to need to learn. Like, I have been delving into things like machine learning and artificial intelligence right now, because there are lots of buzzy things that are out there. But from what I can see, it's these types of things, along with, I would say, voice user interfaces as well, that are really starting to have an impact on consumers. Organizations are consciously and publicly experimenting with these types of things. And we're hearing more and more about it on even the mainstream media, not just Harvard Business Review.
But it's so good, Fred.
It is good. I'm a big fan of HBR.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so and I have a family and a demanding job and all of those sorts of things. So I need to think about, okay, what do I want to focus on? Do I want to focus on learning a new design tool? Like, of course, I'm really interested in Framer. Oh, what cool things can I do with Framer? Okay, no. I need to prioritize.
That'll be a rabbit hole right there.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I need to focus on really understanding artificial intelligence and how to do UX-y things around that. Like, how do you do research? How do you do prototyping and testing? Basically, how do you do human-centered design for human interactions with non-humans? Things like that. And to really understand, and I understand front-end code, back-end code, that sort of thing, but to really understand algorithms and things like that. This is what I need to understand in order to be able to effectively communicate with developers and engineers. Now it's just understanding the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and some of the back-end technologies is not enough anymore. Mm-hmm. You have to understand kind of what individual algorithms do and how they fit together and things like that. I'm only at the very, very beginning of that, completely incompetent at this point. But this is one of those things that I feel like most designers should be paying attention to. Yes, we have virtual reality and augmented reality; those things are interesting, and this is just my view, but I feel like those are going to be fairly niche for a long time. But AI and machine learning are going to have huge impacts, and I feel like experience designers should be there helping it to happen. because I feel like we can positively shape these developments in our society, because these are more than technological advancements. These have profound impacts on individual humans and groups of humans. So, for example, I just listened to an NPR story on the way over here talking about how this group of scientists has created an algorithm for distributing or settling refugees once they're accepted into the United States. That sounds cool and terrifying, you know?
Sure.
And what I would like for UX to do is to get involved in this in a way where we can just say, that sounds cool, because we know that there's some sort of humanity that has been injected into these algorithms.
Yeah.
So
I'm really glad you brought it up that way, because one of the recent conversations I had with David Hustman when I talked about how to build better integrated teams, he talked about that he felt the user experience skill set as it is needs to become a bit more ubiquitous across the teams. So like you were saying, as a designer, I should be out learning some about code. I should be talking to and understanding what these algorithms are and these sorts of things. Flipping that to the other side, to the development teams and the IT resources and all those different things, would that same advice hold for you there? Is that they should be exploring what user experience design offers and what the formulas are around it and the approaches are in order to better make choices from the designs and things that they're looking at?
Yeah, to be super pedantic, I would agree with everything about that statement, except I would switch out user experience design with human-centered design, because you can human-centered design a chair, but you can't really user experience design a chair.
Sure.
This gets, unless your chair is a smart chair and has a touchscreen,
Ooh, does it?
I hope not.
No. One of these days.
And when I think of user experience design, I always think that there's a human being interacting with some sort of technology.
Sure.
So, but human-centered design is much more broad and can be applied to any type of making, I think. But no, that instinct is right on, because the more that anybody who is involved in making new stuff, the more oriented they are towards humans, towards the people that they're making stuff for, that's just going to be better all around. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone has to make wireframes, but what it does mean is that people beyond just UX designers are going to need to ask, well, how is a user going to react to that? If my goal is to do X and this the system is telling me to do Y, is that going to help me? Is that going to hinder me? How am I going to emotionally react to that? That's going to be a huge benefit if more people can start to think like that.
Yeah, and I think it like you were saying, it not only would improve the final product, but it would improve the process to get there.
Yeah.
Because like I said, at Foundry, our designers and developers all sit together. They are commingle, they co-locate, because the developer is usually making a lot of decisions in the micro as they're building out the code, as they're doing these things. And if they have a good understanding of what the goals are and they've been part of the process, we try to include our developers throughout the discovery process. There's no handoffs at our place.
That is awesome. I love that.
And it really makes a big difference, not only in the final product, but it's the entire experience and the way to get there.
Yep.
And the transparency that is allowed, because the developer doesn't just have to say, like, it's not ready. Okay, now look, we don't have to just wait every 2 weeks to do a demo or something like that. We can demo at any moment. So is there a book that you've read maybe in the last year or two that's had an impact that you would recommend for the listening audience?
Oh, yes. And I've also distributed this book around my new team liberally. It's called Org Design for Design Orgs by Peter Merholz and Kristen Skinner. It is, everyone who I've shown it to, they've read pieces and said, yes, exactly this. It has really put into words and concise ideas what a lot of people in the enterprise or what a lot of design leaders in the enterprise have been experiencing. So if you are in the mood for thinking about how your design team can work in a different way, I highly recommend that book.
Very cool. I like that. I will definitely link that in the show notes. So another thing I'd like to ask is tools. A lot of people are always interested in tools. Has there been something, maybe not necessarily recently, but maybe something you've used forever that has been really impactful in the type of work you do?
I may or may not actually be wearing an Acture t-shirt at this moment. Hang on, let me check. Yep.
Yes. Confirmed. Confirmed.
Yeah, I know that lots of people use Sketch and InVision right now. I honestly, I struggle to see why. For me, as an interaction designer, I need my stuff to move.
Yeah.
And InVision stuff doesn't really do that. Yes, using Sketch is amazing and fun and awesome, and it's super great, and it's an actual design tool for actual UI designers. We're not hacking a photo tool or an illustration tool. It's for us. It's fantastic. But for me, Acture will always be my home because I can make anything that I need in it. At this point, it's so advanced, it's basically a front end to JavaScript. So if you can do it in JavaScript, you can do it in Acture. So for me, that's always the go-to. Some of the stuff that I've been thinking about as a design operations person now, though, is versioning, version control. Because version control for designers generally blows.
It is really bad.
Yeah, because design files are binary files, and things like Git or really only work on text files. But there's a new thing coming out called Abstract, and it basically does for binary design files what Git does for source code. So I'm really excited about that. Not sure when I'll be able to get a chance to try it out, but that is a super nerdy thing to be excited about. Yay, version control.
We'll make that a future episode where we'll talk all about that.
All right.
So let me throw a puzzler at you. If I'm going to say a phrase and I want to just get your reaction, do what you love or do what you're good at.
I would say find something that you love that engages you, that you can also earn a living at, and some people are not terrible musicians and can be really tenacious with music and make great livings as a musician, or struggle through but still be happy.
What would you say is the most important characteristic of a leader?
Oh, well, for me, the thing that motivates me as a leader is helping to make other people successful. I feel like that is the right posture.
Servant leader sort of thing, right?
Yes. There's a lot of service that a leader provides, but really, I feel like the term servant leadership has gotten a bad rap in the last few years because it's not, you're not. I think a good leader has to be more than a servant, but I do feel like they have to approach leadership as a theory from a servant-oriented mindset, I think. Because if you as a leader are just telling people what to do, that's disengaging. And, at least for UX designers, I find that tends to be disengaging. And you're not going to get the most out of those people. But if you instead help to unleash their own power, you try to understand what they need in order to do their best work. And, if that's in your power, do that for them. And sometimes they do need guidance because you can say, you're going down this particular path and, I know that this is not going to be good for you. So this, and where this is a servant type thing is that those difficult conversations are terrible to have. No one likes to have them, but when you have those conversations where you're absolutely clear about something, about pushing someone from one direction into another, those kinds of conversations usually have amazing results. So, bite the bullet and do the thing that you want to do,